Hello and welcome to this episode of Compensation Insider. Thank you for joining. Today I would like to discuss about which kind of criteria are common when an organization decides to select a pool of people who are ready and eligible for promotion. So they don't necessarily get the promotion, but they meet the criteria. So what we see in a lot of cases is that there are like three very, very common criteria that are used in organization. The first one being, of course, the education and the qualification. Does the person have the education required for a certain position, or the certification which is related to that? The second criteria would be like seniority or tenure in the company is also a classic element when considering whether somebody might be eligible for promotion. So this comes from the concept that if you stay on your job long enough, eventually you will be promoted, provided that in the meantime you don't really mess up badly. That's quite common an approach in some countries. I've heard in India, though I don't personally know. But I know, for example, that in heavily unionized environments, such as specific industries, for example, the steel industry, the car manufacturing, and so on, that might be one of the criteria that are being considered. And it also applies a lot in positions where all the job holders are paid the same for the same job. For example, if you have like cashiers in a supermarket, maybe cashier 1, 2, and 3 are three different levels of cashier job, but they're all paid the same. And so those kind of promotions are more like what we call job progression and would be helpful. So the seniority or the tenure in the company is going to help decide whether the person might be eligible for that promotion or not. We see it sometimes as well in terms of let's say service firms, professional service firms, that they also have a focus on performance. It's their up or out movement, but basically employees become promotable almost every year in the beginning of the career, while in other industries it's only a few employees that are rewarded for promotion each year. The third most commonly used criteria for determining whether an employee might become eligible to promotion, of course, is performance. And it's actually the most obvious and main driver for promotions, especially in the private sector. So what you do is that you reward for a sustained good job. Performance also is kind of a proxy for maximizing the chances that the employees will continue to deliver great results in the new role. And you have to make a decision when you're using performance as one of your criteria for promotion. Do you promote for adequate performance, or do you promote for exceptional performance? And of course, does it depend on which level or grade you already are in, or which job family you're in? And concretely, how that translates is, do you consider that people who meet the expectations in terms of their performance rating are eligible for promotion, or do you consider only the people who are meeting above the expectation to be eligible for promotion? However, having a list of people who are eligible for promotion purely based on performance is very difficult. First of all, because not all managers are reasonable and they want everyone to be promoted because they think that they're buying peace and that they might eventually get promoted themselves, because if all their people are moving up, why shouldn't they move up? Not all managers are also willing to differentiate in terms of assessing the performance of their employees. And not all managers are able to have a conversation with an employee who's expecting a promotion to tell them that they're not ready yet. So if you don't really put in place other control criteria, you may end up promoting people for the wrong reasons at the wrong time. Okay, so what usually happens is that companies will use multiple factors when deciding their criteria for the eligibility to promotion. The common situation is to first create a hurdle. And the hurdle is a prerequisite that has to be met before the employee can be considered for promotion. And typically it's going to be the time or the tenure in the current job or in the current grade. So for example, you need to have a minimum of 3 years in your current position in order to be eligible or to make the list for consideration. And then the second criteria comes in, that's performance, and it's either coming from the most recent assessment or over a longer period of time. So in example, you would say, for example, an employee to become eligible has to be rated at the expected level of performance or higher, or you could say they didn't get, if you're looking at a longer time period, they didn't get a rating of being under expectations in the past 2 years. So those would be like the 3 criteria and how they combine most often in a lot of organizations. But we see also very often some relatively frequent additional criteria for eligibility. So the first one being, for example, the potential for progression. So some organizations will say that only employees who still have room to grow in their current role will be considered for promotion, so that they avoid bringing somebody above their maximum level of competence, which is called the Peter's principle. So it's often an informal criteria. It's based on the managers and maybe the peers' assessment of the employee capacity. And sometimes it's based on this 9-box grid that is often used in talent management, where you look at a mix of potential and performance. And so that could be one of the criteria, additional criteria that is used in order to decide the pool of people who will be potentially considered for promotion. Another criteria might be the fit for the new role. So it's not always at the time of the request for promotion, but in order to be eligible, some companies do require that an employee masters at least, let's say, 70% of the competencies of the next job up. So that requires the organization to have a very strong framework in terms of skills and competency management, and where they compare the employee's current abilities to those that are required to perform the proposed job, the more senior job. So for example, you might have 5 competencies that are required in the employee's current job. Of those 5, and maybe they're all at level 3 of mastery, and in the new job, there are 3 of those competencies that are required, plus 2 other competencies, and maybe you require, and they're required at level 4 of mastery, so a higher level. So companies who use this kind of system will say the employee needs to demonstrate that they have at least 3 of those 5 competencies for the new role at level 4, which is the level required for the new role, before the employee can be considered for promotion. It works really, really well in organizations that are very much oriented towards technical mastery, because obviously that's kind of easier to define those levels of mastery in the competencies. So it's less frequent in emerging countries or in traditional industry, but you see that kind of requirement more often in high tech, you know, and typical type, maybe R&D, you know, things like that, where you will have more of those skills requirement. Another criteria that quite a lot of organizations are going to use in order to decide who can be on the eligibility list for promotion is the manpower plan. So is there a job available at the new level? Was it a planned job? Do we need to have an open position? Okay, so in some cases, you don't need to have an open position. The promotion reflects the increased competencies and the achievements of the employee, as well as getting some additional responsibilities. So it's a promotion for job progression. So that would be, for example, moving from an accountant to a senior accountant. You don't always need, and it depends on your company, to have a plan that you will need a senior accountant in order to make the employee eligible for the promotion. But a more significant promotion is when an employee takes on a new role with significantly higher responsibilities as per the job evaluation, and they have to be replaced in their old role, hopefully by promoting somebody else, so that you create this kind of nice domino effect. And in that case, an open position in the Manpower plan or the succession plan or an org chart will be useful to decide the eligibility. And to continue on my accountant, that's the move from senior accountant to accounting manager, for example. There can only be one accounting manager on the team. So obviously you would need to have that position open before you can promote the person. So the Manpower plan and the availability of a role would be a criteria as well to decide if the person can be considered for promotion or not. So in my upcoming book, which I have done already the first revision, my book will be about managing promotions from an HR and a manager side. It's not so much for employees. It's from a process and a budget and policy point of view. And I cover, for example, how you can tighten even more these eligibility criteria if you need to. I include a real life example that was extremely successful at one of my clients. So if you're interested in the topic, follow me here on social media. You will learn more about it as I progress on the book, and will let you know when the book is out. And in any case, thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you next week. Thank you.